Hello, dear Wialon partners and flespi customers. Welcome to Gurtam Meetups. Gurtam Meetups is an ongoing project. Every Thursday, we are gathering and we're discussing the most interesting topics related to our community and telematics in general. The topic of today's event is Gurtam Product Policies Explained. By the way, this is the 15th edition of the meetups that we're having here at Gurtam, and to me, that's kind of special because I was actually hosting the very first meetup in the very first edition, and I'm really, really proud to see how far we've come with all the meetups, all thanks to your support and also thanks to the support of the Gurtam team members. So thank you for that. And by the way, in case we don't know each other, I'm Olga Filonchuk. I'm head of International Business Development Center at Wialon Division at Gurtam. My everyday job is managing teams who ensure partner success in Latin and North America, Middle East, Africa, Europe, and Asia Pacific. So together with our partners, we do help spread Wialon in these markets. Today, and most of the time, I'm based here in our headquarters in Minsk, and I'm co-hosting this very special event with my colleague Sergei, based in Boston, and who will introduce himself just in a second.
Thank you, Olga. Hello, everyone. My name is Sergei Leuchanka, and I am a VP of Business Development for Gurtam's flespi product. I'm actually fairly new to this job, having joined the flespi team just a few months ago, but I'm not new to Gurtam. I have been with the company for now 7 years, and until recently, I was responsible for business development of Wialon in North and South America.
So, dear webinar attendees, the purpose of today's event is actually communicate a clear image of Gurtam as a multi-product company. I have a theory, more like an assumption, that at least 50% of people who listen to us right now do think that Wialon is probably the only product of Gurtam, and they do associate Gurtam with Wialon. To many people, in my mind, those are kind of synonyms. I'm not sure if my assumption is actually correct, but I guess there's no time like now, and we have to test this theory. So, dear webinar attendees, if you thought before this meetup that Wialon is the only product of Gurtam, or if to you Wialon and Gurtam are kind of the same, please write a plus or anything like that, any sign of solidarity in the chat, and this way we'll test my assumption or my theory. And while we wait for the answers in the chat, I have to stress out that certainly Gurtam does no longer equal Wialon only, because 3 years ago, Gurtam introduced flespi. And flespi, Wialon are two fundamentally different products. Their product policies are independent and non-identical. Today, we're not discussing the pros and cons of flespi or Wialon product policies. It's more like we're trying to build a contrast between the two. I feel more or less certain that Wialon product policy is more or less clear to all the partners that we have, because we have over 1,000 partners across the globe, and with every one of you, we had this conversation at certain points of time on Wialon distribution or partner protection and stuff like that. At the very same time, flespi is gaining its popularity, and we assume that it's quite natural, actually, if you have certain questions, and I don't know, maybe you also do have some doubts. So our intent is actually to address those questions, and we want to give you more clarity on what kind of services you can expect from Gurtam as the company, regardless of what product you use or intend to use. So today we'll be speaking on the key differences between flespi and Wialon product policies. We'll make sure to take the questions from the chat, so please feel free to send those. We'll try to answer them at the end of the meetup, should we have time left, and of course, provided they relate to the discussion topic. It was also very interesting and pleasant to receive a couple of questions in advance from the partner community. We find them quite interesting, and we'll also try to answer those at the end of the meetup. And before we dive right into it, Sergei, I think it makes sense to shed a little bit more light on what flespi is in general.
Yeah, thanks, Olga. I think there's probably not many partners who have never heard of flespi. At the same time, this meetup is also a good opportunity to remind everyone what it is. So flespi is a backend platform for IoT and telematics with a lot of bells and whistles, so to speak. As you all know, the telematics and broader IoT industry is expanding and growing pretty rapidly. And this growth is being fueled by things such as advancements in wireless communication technologies, IoT device technologies, also falling prices for those components as vendors achieve higher economies of scale and the cost of those individual parts and pieces go down. And every day, more and more innovative IoT and telematics solutions are being launched. So flespi is a product, put simply, that allows to do so, to launch those solutions simply, more efficiently, and less costly than building them from scratch. And to explain how flespi does it, it's best to share what it consists of, actually. So I have a couple of slides which will hopefully make it easier for all of you guys to understand who need that additional information. So I can start sharing my screen. Okay. So first of all, flespi is a telematics gateway and parser. That, similarly to Wialon, can decipher binary data from lots of IoT and telematics devices. However, Flespi's parsing technology is actually quite unique. It's called PVM and stands for Parsing Virtual Machine. It's something that Flespi's engineering team developed in-house, and it allows for a very streamlined device integration process. Once the data is parsed and normalized, it can be consumed in a JSON format using API. And our customers have a choice between REST API and MQTT API. Second, a very important part is the over-the-air device configurator and diagnostics tool. Updating device configurations, pushing firmware updates, diagnosing issues with device behavior are all critical to maintaining a well-functioning IoT or telematics solution. Flespi provides an over-the-air configurator, and it's actually the same interface that works across all supported devices from different manufacturers, which makes it very, very convenient. Plus, Flespi offers powerful diagnostics tools as well. Now, third component to mention is the specialized telematics database, which we call HASD. It stands for a hierarchical asynchronous state database. It's based on MQTT technology and stores the data inside the MQTT broker, which is a unique and quite innovative approach to the database design. Again, developed by Flespi in-house. Now, this is not a technical session, so I don't want to overwhelm you with all this technical detail. So the main takeaway on this point is that Flespi provides a specialized telematics database to store the data. And the fourth very important component that I want to mention is the analytics engine. So Flespi can do the initial data processing to help the customers focus on unique and differentiated features of their solution. Things that are really not differentiator from the processing point of view can be essentially outsourced to Flespi. And examples of that would be such initial processing as, for example, calculating such common elements of telematics capabilities as travel intervals, parking intervals, etc. So with that, I'm gonna pause my presentation. Okay, so as you guys can tell, those are all invisible to the end user elements that essentially form a backend of a custom telematics or IoT solution. Our primary target audience is IoT and telematics companies with their own solutions, and I really want to emphasize here their own solutions and their own engineering team that build and maintain those solutions. So as far as the type of customers, just to give you an example, for example, these days we see a lot of traction with electric scooter sharing and car sharing platforms. And this point of target audience is actually very, very important to keep in mind as we start talking about the policy differences next. So Olga, on to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sergei. Thank you for this brief intro. I think it was very important for new Wialon partners to learn more about flespi because, that's still a relatively new product for some of them. But at the very same time, I think it was also important to make this introduction to some older Wialon partners. Because I do remember the times when flespi was first introduced, and I guess it was still perceived in the Wialon partner community that flespi, it's just another integrated product to be resold by an integrator, just like Wialon or very similar to Wialon. And, I remember this conversation at telematics events or some expos when the partners, they just basically sat down with you and they were like, okay, Olga, so how do I resell this flespi thing now? Teach me. And I'm not saying that flespi is not a fit for a Wialon partner. It is a fit for some Wialon partners, but it's not a fit for the majority of Wialon partners because you actually do have to develop something on it first, and that's important.
That's right, Olga. That's a very important point because from the outset of flespi development, the idea for flespi's target audience was quite different from a typical Wialon partner. We primarily focus on developers and companies building their own custom solutions. And the idea was to give them a very good foundation and very good tools to achieve their goals, and not to give them something that they can simply resell. And so I think we've emphasized that before, but I just want to emphasize it again, that flespi is not a product for resale.
Exactly. And again, when you're building so fundamentally different products, I guess it's important to make sure that every product has its own path to follow, and that there is the right team behind every product, which is why it was obvious and kind of transparent to us from the very beginning that there should be different people working on flespi and different people working on Wialon, which is why currently Wialon teams and flespi teams do belong to completely different divisions inside of Gurtam. The teams responsible for marketing, for development, for business development, for technical support, those are all different teams and those are all different people. And we also do care a lot about the privacy of both Wialon partners and flespi customers, and we're not actually sharing any information on each other customers or prospects, and that's also very important to us.
Indeed, customer privacy is of the utmost very important consideration for Gurtam, no matter what product is provided. As part of doing business, oftentimes NDAs, as you guys all know, NDAs are signed, right? All contracts and license agreements protect our customers and partners' privacy. And given the Wialon and flespi teams are distinct and separate from each other, since they belong to different divisions, as Olga explained earlier, even inside Gurtam, our employees have limited abilities to verify which customer uses which product, etc. Okay, so now what we actually want to do is we want to contrast some of the approaches to sale and distribution that exist between Wialon and flespi.
Yeah, so if we're speaking about Wialon as a product, especially a product compared to flespi, it's kind of ready to go and ready to use. Speaking just very generally, you can buy Wialon from me today and you can go and sell it in your market tomorrow because the interface is there for you, the features are there for you. It's ready to go, it's ready to use, the time to market is immediate. And that is what makes it so different. Of course, you might want to develop something on top of Wialon through API and SDK, but that's very, very optional, especially at initial stages. With Wialon, you have all the instruments, all the tools to do the reporting, the notifications, without a need to program anything on SDK or API.
So flespi, on the other hand, is not the product that can be used out of the box. As I explained earlier, flespi is a backend solution that in itself does not have value unless you develop something with it or on top of it. And let me give you a very simple example. buying flespi is like walking into the computer store and buying a personal computer without an operating system installed on its hard drive. It's really just a bunch of metal and plastic pieces screwed together that don't do anything, right? It's not until you load the operating system and install some other software that you start deriving value from that computer. So similarly with flespi, you take it, you build something on top of it with those tools that we provide, and the end product of such development is what creates value for the customers. And what I would also highlight is that whereas Wialon distributors and sub-distributors carry largely the same solution, in Flespi's case, all those final solutions are different.
And when I think about the nature of the product that we just discussed, I also think that the nature of the product kind of dictates who your typical customer is. And if we have to create a profile of a typical Wialon partner, to me, that's the company which takes Wialon as is, bundles it with the device, and oftentimes does not do any software development on top of it. And if you compare a typical Wialon partner with a typical flespi customer, that's a huge difference, because flespi customer is always involved in software development. That's the essence of their business. And having in mind this Wialon partner profile, again, the typical customer of Wialon, and the nature of their businesses, of course, Wialon partner protection policy is in place. It may differ from region to region, but the essence is kind of the same. We do not work with potential or existing end users or sub-dealers of our partners on Wialon. And of course, here I'm referring to the registration capabilities of my.gurtam.com portal, which soon will be rebranded as mywialon.com portal. Again, the idea is pretty simple. You register a company contact, and should that company be in contact with Gurtam directly, they will be forwarded back to the partner who made the registration. At the very same time, here it's important to mention that Wialon partner protection policy applies to Wialon products only. So in simple words, if you made the registration, you registered a company on my.gurtam/wialon.com, you are securing this customer on Wialon and for Wialon only. It's not automatically applicable to flespi, and we encourage all Wialon partners to keep it in mind.
So in contrast to Wialon, at flespi, we do not have similar restrictions. So, if you think about it, when you buy Wialon, you do buy Wialon and then you sell Wialon, and therefore we have those protection mechanisms that Olga spoke about, right? So, but when you buy flespi, the final product you will sell may take various shapes and forms. Flespi is the foundation and set of development tools for creating custom solutions. With that in mind, our position is that anyone should be able to engage with flespi directly. Sometimes it's useful to think of flespi as of a technology partner, similar to, for example, AWS or Amazon Web Services. Nowadays, building and maintaining your own infrastructure to host your solution doesn't make business sense in many cases. That's why many companies turn to AWS and its competitors for that service. And our vision for flespi is that less and less companies would want to set up so-called listener servers and receive data, binary data directly from IoT devices, then parse that data and worry about scalable storage, etc. All of those things that flespi provides at very competitive rates. Having said that, flespi doesn't just engage with any company that comes and wants to give us their money. With all prospective flespi customers, we actually ensure that flespi is a good fit for what they're trying to accomplish. And we do so because we invest a substantial amount of our time in technical guidance of a customer. So we need to make sure that the customer have the right capabilities, and that as part of the engagement, we maximize the chances of success with whatever projects our customers implement using flespi.
Yeah. And also, when we are comparing flespi and Wialon, I think we need to speak about the white labeling capabilities. White labeling has always been available to Wialon partners and users, both for mobile interfaces and the web interface. Of course, we do enjoy and we do respect those partners who make use of the Wialon brand, who are not hiding it, because again, based on our experience and history, the markets where Wialon brand is not hidden actually are characterized by the highest telematics market penetration rates. At the very same time, again, we do respect the natural choice of our partners, Wialon partners, to promote their own brand, which is why white labeling is in place. However, if you are the partner, the Wialon partner who listens to us right now, and if you do want to make use of the Wialon brand, you just are not certain where to start, how to start, and what kind of support you can get from the Wialon division at Gurtam, just send a message to your personnel manager because we do have an interesting program for you.
So if we think about white labeling, it always has to do with the customer facing front end of the solution, right? So, and given the nature of flespi, the front end is exactly the part that flespi doesn't provide, and that's exactly the part that has to develop by flespi customer. Therefore, there's no white labeling in Flespi's case. And going back to the example with AWS, I don't think anyone out there has a thought of white labeling AWS for their project, right? And kind of leveraging, even though they use it just for hosting. It just doesn't make sense. So our position is that with Flespi, it's a very, very similar situation.
Yeah, and I guess there is one last thing that we need to openly speak about is actually the technical support of Wialon and technical support of Flespi. I think it's an important point to mention both for Wialon partners and Flespi customers. So first of all, Wialon technical support is 24/7. It's available in 3 languages, Russian, English, and Spanish. Second of all, it's available to any Wialon user, be it our partner, your sub-dealer, or even your end user. Even though with end users, we do have certain physical restrictions and we will not be able to help them with everything. We also do have a separate team which may assist you with your hardware-related questions. And on top of that, we also do offer training on Wialon. So as you see, the menu, so to say, of Wialon technical support is quite extensive. You have a lot of things to benefit from. At the very same time, what's offered and kind of guaranteed by Wialon technical support does not automatically guarantee that Flespi team would be able to provide the same set of services.
Right, and as all the other functions, Flespi's support function is distinct and separate from Wialon support. And as I have already mentioned, Flespi is very serious about support. Oftentimes, support is not just about answering questions about how certain things work, but providing technical guidance and engineering expertise to help customers make optimal architectural decisions and align their development with Flespi's capabilities. So for that reason, presently support is actually being provided by the same engineers who build Flespi. And currently, we do not have a 24/7 support, but we nevertheless are trying to provide quick and meaningful responses as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Sergei. Dear webinar attendees, thank you so much for the questions that you are submitting to the chat. I think it might be a good point to switch to Q&A session. We also did receive 2 questions in advance, so if you don't mind, we still have time, so we'll start with those. I'll read them out. So the question is, the very first question is that we received in advance from Mike. It sounds like with Flespi, you make it easy for companies to create a solution that will compete with Wialon. What's your take on that? So that's a very interesting question. That's why we wanted to discuss it and share our vision with the partner community, with Wialon partner community in the very first place. Because, well, first of all, thank you for the question. And second of all, when we're asked, or when I'm personally asked if Flespi creates competition to Wialon, I think that is pretty far from the truth, to be completely honest with you. Because if we analyze where Wialon is in the marketplace right now with 2.5 million devices connected, with the partner community that we have, I can hardly imagine anyone getting that close. And again, if we have a look at Wialon as a product, at its key advantages, key differentiators as the product, not Gurtam as the company, not the community that we have, that's an advantage of itself, of course. But again, Wialon as a product, what are the differentiators? And to me, the differentiators are truly in the features. It's in the reporting capabilities, it's in the interface, it's in analytical tools, it's in the features, in how you can set up those features, the flexibility of the system, stability of the system, and stuff like that. And you know what? None of that is actually provided by flespi. It's all the efforts and the results of the Wialon team. And while flespi is an extremely powerful engine, the backend solution, still, it doesn't go with the interface, with all these nice features and stuff like that. So it's up to the solutions company provider to decide what they want to build on top of flespi, and whatever they build does not automatically guarantee quality as is. Which is why, our vision is that flespi is a nice addition to our family of products, but it's not creating competition for Wialon. Sergei, that you are pretty much aligned with me on that, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
The very first question that we received in advance, the second why, Sergei, I think it should be for you. The question is also kind of tricky. Why don't you protect, by you like Gurtam, why don't you protect me on flespi the way you protect me on Wialon?
Yeah, I think it's actually, interestingly enough, one of the, it's one of the very most common questions that we receive from the folks that are trying to make that contrast between Wialon and flespi. So I think what you really kind of need to ask yourself, kind of putting the question out there, is what do I need protection from, right? In Flespi's case. So let's say you build something great on flespi, some really cool, unique solution. Then your customer finds out that it's built on flespi, comes to Gurtam directly. All they will get from us at that point is flespi, right? Not the solution you provide. And again, I think it's let's think back to AWS example. If someone sells a scalable solution on AWS, any user of that solution can buy AWS for scalable hosting, and no one will prevent them from doing so. But is that the replacement for the solution that they buying from you otherwise? Certainly not. So with flespi we have the same position in this regard, and that's the reason we don't have similar protection policies on flespi side as we do on Wialon side.
Yeah. So, dear webinar attendees, thank you so much also for the questions in the chat. So we'll try to take at least a couple of them. So the question is from Adrian, and Adrian is asking, will you continue to develop new products, and will you have different teams with different policies for each of those? Adrian, that's a very good question. And in general, the policy of the company is that yes, should Gurtam as the company decide to develop any kind of product, new product, there will be a separate team responsible for it, and the policies would not be identical in most cases. Which is why it's quite natural. Again, we hope all Wialon partners will understand right now that Gurtam is not only Wialon. Now Gurtam is also flespi and is also Wialon, and the product policies are different. And we think that's the key to success, and that's why we're actually having this very meetup to explain this very little subtlety, which probably wasn't communicated clearly enough before. So whatever the product we may do in the future, should we want to do something in the future, it makes sense to assign a separate team for that. Again, and here we're speaking about a separate team for development, business development, marketing, and stuff like that. So I hope, Adrian, that answers your question.
And Olga, if you don't mind, I'll just
sure.
very briefly add to that, I think generally the good way of thinking of or the expectation to have as we release new products is that the policies. Please do not assume that just the policies that you're used to as part of using one of the products would just inherited by new products that we come out, right? The good assumptions to have is that the policy is probably going to be different, and the best way to do is to check with your manager and clarify that so that the expectations are clear and there's no confusion and bad feelings or anything like that down the road.
Yeah, I guess
We try to be very, very transparent.
That's a nice piece of advice in general. When in doubt, just ask Gurtam and we'll do our best to clarify. But Sergei, thank you so much for your input. It's very right to say that Wialon partners, flespi customers should assume that once and if there is a new product, the policy of flespi or the policy of Wialon is not applicable. But again, you can always ask and we'll do our best to be transparent. Okay. So the next question is about flespi. I think this question is from Michael. Where is the flespi database located? If not in the US, is there a plan to have one here?
Yes, thank you, Michael, for that question. And actually, I see another question from Michael, so I'll just address both of them at the same time. So the second question has to do with the third-party security attestations. So first of all, in terms of database, so with flespi we have two regions, though. So we have instances of flespi running in two regions, one in Netherlands, and the second one in Russia. As far as when we plan to have, or if we have to plan to have one in the U.S. At this point, we don't have specific timelines of launching new data centers. So certainly, please, I would encourage to follow our news. Every month we post information on all the plans that we are ready to make public as far as our direction and the future. So at this point, I cannot say anything specific there, but we certainly will be growing the selection of data centers on flespi in the future. And as far as the attestation, so Michael, those we're getting into very specific product-specific questions. This meetup is really about contrasting the policies, and we'd like not to go that deep into technical detail. So please reach out to us directly, email info@flespi.com, and we will help you out with those specific technical questions.
But it's actually very pleasant to receive all those questions, and I guess now we clearly see that maybe there's the need for a separate flespi meetup because obviously there are more questions than just regarding the policy, which is a great sign. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely, agreed.
Yeah. So Sergei, since would you mind answering one more question?
Right. So we have also a flespi related question. Actually, it's a flespi and Wialon related question from Joshua. What does parsing? I think Joshua, you're saying here. What about parsing data from flespi to Wialon? Does the Wialon policy still apply? So I'll try to think through what you might mean here. So I would assume, reading this question, is that you are using Wialon, Joshua. So, but you also use flespi to funnel data through it, and then ultimately get that data into Wialon. So when it comes to Wialon protections, certainly you're applicable or you're eligible to take advantage of all those protections on Wialon side. So just the fact that you funnel the data through flespi into Wialon does not strip you from protections that you actually get as a Wialon partner. So I think I would answer it this way if I understood your question correctly.
If we got it correctly. I mean, in general, whatever exists on Wialon and whatever is registered on my.gurtam.com, there is this space for protection. But in terms of flespi, as we discussed today, there's really nothing, in our opinion, to protect you from. So if it's on Wialon and if it's registered as per my.gurtam.com rules, then for sure you are eligible to this protection. And we also have one more question. No? Let me check. Yeah, I think like the last question is also more related to flespi technical capabilities, and that probably would make sense to answer it separately, right? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dear webinar attendees, I also want to thank you again for the questions. And by the way, it's very pleasant to see here that flespi is receiving great marks on technical support. So thank you for all these high marks, and thank you for the active discussion in the chat.
Okay, it's to me now, right, Olga?
Yep.
So
I think
ready,
it might
ready
be the
to
time
wrap up.
for us to wrap up the conversation.
Okay. So, dear attendees, Olga and I would like to thank everyone who joined this meetup. So, if you were multitasking while having this meetup open on your computer and now wondering what should be the takeaway, please keep this main point in mind. As Gurtam continues expanding the number of products that we carry, it's important to remember that all policies exist on a product level and not at the company level. If you, as a Wialon partner, are used to or counting on some policies that have been communicated to you, remember that those policies only relate to Wialon. If you explore and start using flespi, make sure you ask flespi team to clarify flespi's policies. Do not assume that the policies of one product automatically work with another. Wialon and Gurtam, as Olga said in the beginning, are not equal to each other anymore. So before we close out, we do want to remind everyone about our new global competition called IoT Project of the Year. It's a great opportunity for all of you to introduce and promote your projects and solutions to the global community. Establish or reinforce your expert status in the industry, and of course, potentially win an award. So please go to Gurtam.com to find out more. The deadline for your submissions is July 30th. And of course, we hope to see you at future meetups on Gurtam TV every Thursday. The schedule is always available at Gurtam.com. The link is right below this video. All previous meetups are recorded and are available on our YouTube channel, which you should also, by the way, be subscribed to, not to miss anything. With that, depending on where you are in the world, we wish you a pleasant day or a good evening, and see you all next week on Gurtam TV.